Hey guys, how's it going? This is Craig Connelly and this is my top 10 trance albums of all time. Obviously, this is my own personal choices of albums which I've hammered growing up and those which have had a direct impact on my sound you hear today. And you may not agree with me, which is cool, as I want to hear your opinions on this. So leave me your feedback and comments and let's discuss this together. Alright, kicking things off at number 10 is the UK trance legend Lange with his 2008 debut album Better Late Than Never. Appropriately titled, as he'd been releasing amazing trance music for nearly a decade before this album and even touched on commercial success in the early 2000s. This particular album is special to me as it's not just an album of bangers but well thought out melodic trance instrumentals and songs we can connect to. My personal highlights are the massive Out of the Sky featuring Sarah Howells and the opening track Nearly Home. Above and Beyond are up next, and it's not hard to see why with the plethora of incredible artist albums, which by my count now makes no less than 5. The one that stood the test of time for me and spawned some incredible lifting vocal trance records was the one and only Tri-State. Released in 2006, just before the group's meteoric rise to fame, it features the collaboration with Andy Moore, Air for Life, Can't Sleep, Good For Me, Home, and one of my all-time favourite vocal trance records, Alone Tonight.
Alone tonight, just like the western star, I'm sinking. The angels curse me blind with straight and crooked thinking.
Next up at number 8 is Renaissance The Mix Collection by Sasha and John Digweed. This 3-CD mixed compilation was originally intended as just a sampler for the Renaissance Club's music policy, but the album was so admired it gained worldwide critical acclaim and still to this day is recognised as one of, if not the best, mixed albums ever. Featuring incredible sounds of early progressive house and trance from the mid-90s, Sasha and Digweed created one of the most remarkable music journeys in history. Originally released in 1994, this work of art was remastered and re-released in 2004 when I picked it up, and I still listen to it to this day. It's hard to pick just one or two highlights, but the perfecto mix of Grace, Not Over Yet sums up the iconic standard of this track list. Number 7, what can we say about Armin van Buuren as being one of the biggest electronic music acts in history and a figurehead for the whole trance genre? Long before his total world domination, there was an album named Shivers, and honestly I think this is some of his best work to date and was a huge inspiration for my own album 1 Second Closer. This album covers all subgenres of trance and brilliantly captures a snapshot of the Armin style which propelled him into the forefront of the genre. Released at a time when he was still playing 9-hour sets at God's Kitchen in the UK, it really is a piece of Armin trance history that will not be forgotten. Number 6 on the list is Ferry Corsten with Right of Way. Ferry had to come up on this list at some point, but controversially, this might not be the album you were expecting to hear, but let me explain. Right of Way was the first step in the electro direction Ferry took in the mid to late 2000s, and this wasn't totally a classic Ferry album as such, but it was probably the album which completely encompassed the whole Ferry Corsten sound. There are definitely more trancey Ferry Corsten albums, and there's definitely more electro Ferry Corsten albums like LEF. But personally, Right of Way hits the nail on the head with the mixture of both trance, electro and its mass appeal at the time of release, which for me captured clubbing as an experience in one album. And the final thing I'll say about this is it had some absolute bangers on it, including Time, Kyoto, Right of Way, Punk, and this one, Rock Your Body Rock. 2010 was a landmark year for Gareth Emery and his Northern Lights album. After launching Garuda in 2009, the events in Manchester were incredible and the popularity of the label soared thanks to its forward-thinking progressive trance sound. Northern Lights, which was a benchmark for that Garuda style, helped Gareth catapult his career into the stratosphere. The album featured progressive sounds such as Stars and Arrival and went through to the faster euphoric moments from Fight the Sunrise and All Is Now. But the biggest single to come from the album was ultimately Sanctuary featuring Lucy Saunders.
When there's nowhere left to run with me, let the moment be a sanctuary.
Sasha Involver is at number 4 and can only be described as a hybrid of both an artist album and a mixed compilation. The concept is basically Sasha's own personal remix of every track on the compilation, but every part from every track is mixed into the next, so there's really no transitions at all. It's like listening to one continuous hour-long piece of music. Listening to this album, you don't really have a sense of where a track starts or ends. It's just a continuous evolving journey through Sasha's impeccable production and music choice. To be honest, I'd never really heard of many of the artists featured on the album, but it really didn't matter as absorbing the album as a whole is the only thing you can do in this case. Stick this on, sit back and take in one of the best electronic music journeys in history. Capturing Tiesto in his DJing prime is a tricky task, especially with his huge range of musical sounds and releases he's had over the years. If we're talking strictly trance Tiesto though, it's hard to argue with the mixed compilation Nayana. There has only ever been one Nayana and there probably will never be anything like it again. There are many other Tiesto trance compilations, but so few are as iconic as this one. Here is just a sample of the incredible track list which speaks for itself. Darren Tate and John O'Grant, Let the Light Shine In. Holden and Thompson, Nothing. Motorcycle, As the Rush Comes.
Embrace me, surround me as the rush comes.
Conjure One featuring Sinead O'Connor, Tears from the Moon.
Tears from the moon. Tears from the moon.
GTR, Mistral. And one of the best trance records of all time, Solid Globe, North Pole. It goes without saying that Paul van Dyk is probably my favourite trance artist ever, so picking a defining piece of work which sums up my experience with him is really hard. But Reflections is definitely the album which made me a devout fan. It's a close call with Out There and Back, but Reflections just has the hits which resonated with me more and my experiences of when I first started clubbing at trance events. We can't deny just how massive tracks like Crush and Nothing But You were, but the ace card that Reflections has in its pocket is Times of Our Lives, which is not only one of the biggest Paul van Dyk records ever, but is the anthem which unites the whole trance scene together. And I don't think there will ever be a record like this again.
Oh, this is the time of our lives. 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 Oh, this is the time.
And here it is, my #1 trance album of all time. At first, I thought this would be an incredibly hard decision, but upon listening to it again, it's not hard to see why. Just Be by Tiesto has only 10 tracks, but what it has from start to finish is pure class and consistency. Each and every track is nothing short of amazing and oozes complete integrity. There was a time when everything Tiesto touched turned to gold, and Just Be is a perfect example of that time. Featuring the hits Love Comes Again and Traffic, but also some deeper cuts like Forever Today and the title track Just Be, is a perfect journey across a timeless Tiesto sound set which so few have come close to replicating today. And finally, the track list also leaves me with a perfect way to wrap up this video. This is Adagio for Strings. Thanks for watching this video, and leave me your comments and feedback on what you thought about the album reviewed.